Thank you. So Tania sent her apologies. She was double booked, so she couldn't come. So my name is Raniere Silva. Most of the time online, I use RGAIACS as my username. So if you're looking to find me online, that's my username. And Tania, that's her contact if you want to find her online. She's pretty active on Twitter. So how this Jupyter proposal kind of start was last year on this same city in Edinburgh. So there is a project from Horizon 2020 that's a big grant project from the European Union. And one project under that umbrella is the OpenDreamKit. So the idea for this project is to work on infrastructure for researchers. And one of the goals is to strengthen virtually research and environment. So, for example, Jupyter's notebooks and all the Jupyter ecosystems. And last year, as I was saying, we had a meeting that was the computational mathematics with Jupyter and at the International Center for Mathematical Science. So the institute, Software Sustainability Institute, where I work, we have some fellows, and one of the fellows is Alexander Konovalov, and he's one of the co-investigators for the OpenDreamKit project. So he kindly invited me to join the team for this 1 week, half talks, half hackaday, which was kind of nice. So during all the conversation that people was having, we started talking about how to develop the lessons, because most of the people, they was interested in that. So at some point, it was like, we want to have lessons in a website that looks nice, not exactly as nice as this one, because this is an old one, but I got involved in Software Carpentry. That's a non-profit organization that teaches people in academia how to code in Python and version control their software. And this is a screenshot for how their lessons was looking like in 2014. What you can see on the screen is that they have a title for this lesson, so it's making choices, and they have at a little below a series of objectives for that lesson. So, for example, readers supposed to know how to create a single image made out of color blocks at the end of that lesson. So it's a little not too long lesson, but you can see some codes at the first section. So image grids, you can see some Python codes in some cells. So the idea that was discussing on the workshop is like, it would be really nice to end up with some lessons that has this kind of look a little more professional, and with some colors that make readers find things easily, but that you could write the lesson in Jupyter's Notebook, because if there's some code and some output, you don't want to copy and paste every time that you change, especially if you have 100 cells on your lesson. So we was looking on Jupyter, so this is the same lesson that doesn't have the title, but you can see that the objectives are the same and the same Python codes. So this is Jupyter. At that time, 2014, we didn't use the word Jupyter, it was Python notebooks at that time. So it's the same notebook that was generated in that previous image, but just on Jupyter. And it was like, so this is how we have on Jupyter, and this is how we're writing, which most people on academia that use that tool is already familiar with. But this, when you're trying to export this, you can choose someone that's going to read the lesson. You can say, oh, I can use NBView. That's a nice tool. I just need to send a link, and this is how you're going to see on NBView, which is okay, but as you see, you still have like the numbers of the cells here, which, as you see, start on 6 on this example. And why the reader can think, why start on 6 and not 1 if it's the start of the lesson? And there is no color, so it can be a little hard for people to follow the lesson because it doesn't make very highlighting things. And he was keeping these discussions like, okay, so what you can do? And if you ever use Jupyter Notebook, you might have come across with the option to download your notebook in different formats. So you can download as the notebook itself, but you can also download as a Python script. That was something that I mentioned yesterday on the beginner's day for someone. That person was asking, like, if I want to get just a script from the notebook, so you can just go and download. You can download as HTML file, or Markdown, or restructured text, or LaTeX, or get a PDF via LaTeX. So there's a couple of options. And it was like, okay, so let's see how end up if you decide to download as HTML, because you can upload the HTML to many websites, and they just render. And looks exactly as NBView, because that's basically what NBView was doing. And it's like, okay, we still have this kind of same problem. Still want to remove some things and add some things. So keep on that discussion, another thing that people kind of raise was like, sometimes you have one lesson, but you want to split the lesson in sub-lessons. So maybe you want to split in like day 1 and day 2, because it's a 2-day workshop, or morning or afternoon. And you might have extra contents, not just Jupyter notebooks. You might have Python script, because you explain for people how they're going to use scripts. Or you might have some file formats that you want to download, because you have some chemistry files that people need to read and so on, and you want to make it easy for people to download all these files, so you want to organize all the lesson in some format. So this screenshot was something that Tania ended up working during that week, one year and a half ago, here in Edinburgh. And it's kind of a good, nice prototype. You can actually use, but still was discussing how you can use better Jupyter notebooks. And the main thing that was like, why do you want to use Jupyter notebooks? It's because the environment is familiar to authors, and it supports, at this moment, more 40 program languages. So it's not just Python. If someone is writing a lesson in R, they can use the same infrastructure. If someone is writing a lesson in C, the same thing, they just can build on top of what everyone else already contributed. And what pieces of the pipeline we kind of was building on top. So there's NB convert. Can you raise your hand if you know already what NB convert X is? So let's half of the room. So NB convert is what's behind all that options that I was showing before on Jupyter Notebook, that you can download the notebook in different formats. And the other things, any site generator like Sphinx, Hugo, or Jekyll. So that was the 2 pieces of work that you need to build on top. And Tania was, again, working on other ideas, mixing Jupyter Notebooks and Jekyll, so that's one of the Git repositories. And fast forwarding a little bit, this is the Travis Tardy, it's the time machine from Doctor Who. So you are in England. So I want to put this image. I ended up in EuroPython last year. So that's the photo of some discussions, not on the discussion, but some of the people was close by. So was Thomas is in the back. He and I was in one of the helping desk, and someone showed up saying, so can you help me with something on Jupyter Notebooks? And it's like, yes. So what do you need? And that attendant was like, so I have to create some reports, but every time I need to put some logo on my reports, because my boss needs those reports to be archived in something. And all the analysis for the reports are on Jupyter Notebooks, but at the end, I just want to include the logo, and I want to save time because I don't want to keep doing that every time. The attendant was like, because at the moment, generates the later code, and then I need to edit the later code. So I don't want to keep editing the files every time, because as you might know, as a software developer, if you need to keep doing things every time again, it's error prone, so that's why you want to automate. And at that time on the table, I was like, yeah, you could like create a LaTeX class and try to avoid to do most of the editing. And Thomas was like, oh no, but you can have customs templates for NB convert. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. So so that was like, it's funny because I never, I was using that option a long time ago, but I kind of forgot what was. So this is demo time, just to give you an idea of how NV convert and the custom templates work. So we're going to do this on the shell. I think it's okay for people on the audience to read. So there's a few files here. The 04 minus con.ipynb is just the Jupyter Notebook. So if I do less on that file, it's just JSON format. If you ever open that file without, it's just a plain text. So there's nothing extra special on that one. And there is a template here, this full template that I basically just download from the source code from the node NB convert. So it's exactly the same file. And they use Ginger too. So if you ever edit any of the Ginger files to templates, so you're going to be familiar with this instructions, extend. So it's just saying that's extending one previous template, and there's blockers and so on, and not going too deep on this one, but it can create, can use that template to generate the HTML file from the IPython notebook. So I can type Jupyter NB convert, and I can pass the file. I can use template, and I can pass a file. So full TPL, and I can pass the file name. And it's going to generate saying that it convert. So I'm just going to switch the screen to open on the browser. So it's this one here. So that's the output. I just refresh so you can see. And it's pretty similar of one of the screens that I showed you before on the Jupyter Notebook. But if I want to say, oh, I want to add some extra information, I can build on top of that template. So I have a custom A here, and I'm just going to show you a diff so you can see what I make the change. So full TNP and custom A TNP. So I just add this line. So it's just saying EuroPython 2018. So it's just before all the notebook information. And I can use Jupyter again, NB convert template. And now I'm going to change the template to custom a.tpl. And I want output as 04 custom A and the notebook itself. So it's, sorry, there's a typo here. And it's using now the template, my custom template, and converting the notebook. So it's writing, and I'm going to open on the browser. So this is the new one, just refreshing, so be sure that's going there. So there is a EuroPython 2018 here on the top. So as any minimal example, I can do something. I can customize my template. And then I want to do something more interesting, just like not just a text. I can maybe add an image. So that's the second one. So the difference between the full and the custom B. So I just add an image here. So you can see here. So just a HTML tag with the image. And you can convert using the same command, just changing the template here. This one. And I'm going to switch to the other one. So then I have the logo of the EuroPython 2018 here. So the idea is like, if I can do this with like just changing one line of code, I might be able to add any other kind of information that my employee might want to have on the report, the logo, the address, any email, or anything. So that's what Thomas had suggested her to use this feature from NB-Convert. And it was like, this looks very good, but it's kind of, the users are just accessing the Jupyter Notebook and see some at the top of the iceberg. And that's just 10%. The 19% of everything is under the water, and no one's kind of seeing. That was the case of that attending. And the same attending that was like yesterday on the beginner's day. So it's like, maybe you can see if you can improve that and they make that more visible in terms of templates and so on. And that's what I end up talking with Thomas on last year. It's like, what I can do. And he was like, maybe you can send a proposal. And I was like, OK. I know that like Python has proposals. They have the PEPs. And I was already kind of familiar. I read a few of them, especially PEP 8. That's about coding formats. It's like, OK. Thomas told me that there is a Jupyter Enhancement Proposals, so I started looking online. And it's like, OK, there's a Git repository that's from the Jupyter organization, and it's called Enhancement Proposals. And it's like, reading the README, and it's like, yeah, that's the procedure. If you want to suggest something, you can copy one of the files, create one directory, open a pull request. So that's what I decided to do. I decided to open a pull request, saying like, can you add templates as metadata? And this is an enhancement proposal for this pull request. And you can see that Thomas had a comment just left to me. So my idea was, because I want to reuse the same template over and over again, every time that they're going to export this, it's supposed to be saved somewhere. So that's why it needs to be something on the notebook format, not just the Jupyter interface. So that's why I end up sending the proposal. And there was a few comments below, and I include like an image, a screenshot. Like, this is how I envision the idea. You can go to the Jupyter interface, and you can say, this is, I want to set a template. That's my template, custom template that I want to use. And later, you can just go and download that. At the end, we had some discussions on the issue, but I ended up being too busy to just push and get like a kind of prototype and explore more the ideas. And if you propose something and you're really not able to take forward with lots of time, it's kind of keep open. People was very welcome from everyone from the Jupyter community sending feedbacks and so on. So it's kind of my fault to not have too much time. But that was what I want to share with you today. I want to thank especially Thomas for all their contributions and push me to share this. And if you have questions, I'm open to having questions now. If you want to make questions later on Twitter or anything, that's my ID and Tania's ID. Thank you very much to listen.
Thanks. Are there any questions? No? No? What kind of, you said you ran out of time to sort of fully implement it. How big of a kind of job do you think it is to implement one of these proposals, this proposal?
The main challenge was just like learn how the insides of like how NB-Convert works and the order that it reads files. Because the challenge is like, if I store the name of the template that I want to use, it's inside the notebook. But the NB convert, he started doing some things before open the notebook. So I kind of was like, I'm changing this part. It's like not super trivial. You kind of need to open the notebook. And at that moment, you kind of pass that. And later you can say, OK, I have that piece of information. And now I need to go back and change the default one.
Okay.
So that was the most time-consuming that I didn't have time to devote too much.
Is it all written in Python, the NB convert?
Yeah, the NB convert is in Python. It's fully Python. The templates, they have a series of templates, and those templates are in Jinja too.
Okay, yeah.
That's Jupyter.
And there's the Jupyter Notebook. Is that fully Python, or are there other bits of...
No, Jupyter Notebook, there's lots of JavaScript for the user interface, yeah.
Makes sense, yeah. Anyone, any questions before we wrap up? No? Okay, well, can we thank
you
Raniere again?
Thank you for listening. Enjoy.